This is the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Purse, here with your co-host, Bill Hamill.
I'm so much more comfortable collecting real estate than I am collecting other stuff.
This is the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Purse, here with your co-host, Bill Hamill. Bill, we interviewed Anne Marie and Jeromie Sheldon. What'd you think?
I just have one sentence is, these are two beautiful people with an amazing journey.
Yeah, it goes back to the why and your mindset once again. I think we've said that time and time again, but those two things really determine your success, and they seem to have those two things mastered.
Very inspiring.
Jeromie and Anne Marie, thank you so much for being here this morning. Can we get right into it and hear more about your real estate background?
Definitely. Thank you both so much for having us here. We're super excited and love the Collecting Real Estate show. Love listening to the podcast. They're super valuable. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we're honored to be on your show today. Thank you.
So you want to share a little background? We started out with a single family home when we're a military family. So to back up a little bit, we bought a home basically on a short sale on one of our assignments in about 2013, and then had to move 2015. The market was okay, but wasn't quite where, it needed to be to sell our home. So we waited and rented it to another military officer. The next 4 years, the value significantly climbed. And then, being a short sale, we were able to sell it for quite a bit more. So we were excited about that. Then the whole time, Jeromie had been really interested, several years in our marriage. He'd been interested in real estate. He'd been reading books on real estate and learning about it. And around 2019 in March, I thought, maybe I should join in on this adventure, or maybe I should learn more about it. I was kind of just not really understanding, what he was wanting to do with real estate or what our why would be. But he mentioned a conference, March 2019, and I thought, well, maybe I should go with him. So I went and my eyes were totally opened. Couldn't believe the different ways that you can make money in real estate. Didn't ever really connect real estate with our why in life. We'd always talked about having a legacy for our family. We have 6 children, but also we had talked about, since we got married, about owning some land with cabins, having a wellness center, having a healing place for veterans to come with PTSD, people with addictions. And so when we went to the conference, Jeromie and I looked at each other and he said, money is a tool. And if money is a tool, maybe this is our avenue to what we've always wanted to do. And that was when I really had a revelation. So we really got started in multifamily early 2019. Once we went to that conference, we hooked up with that group. We did several passive investments with them just to learn, get our feet wet, and see what how these GPs were managing these deals. We didn't feel comfortable jumping in and trying to be a GP right out of the gate when we didn't know what we were doing. So that was where we started, in probably Texas, Florida, and Arizona markets. And then a year later, we were moving to Western New York. Again, we move every 1 to 2 to 3 years. So the crazy moves makes it hard to kind of have roots and have property and boots on the ground somewhere. So when we made this move, we said, let's do it. So we bought a 12 unit. And then a little bit later, we bought a 5 unit. And our thoughts there were, let's learn about asset management. Let's have our own money, on the table and our own time. And let's sort of weed our way through it while we continue our education and our coaching for sure. So we kept going with that group. Then we did some personal coaching with Anna Kelly. Now we're in an MIH mastermind group. So those things have really been fueling us in the background while we kind of got our hands dirty a little bit to see, what it was like for ourselves and learn a little bit by trial and error as well. Now
it's great having you guys today. Tell us about your background, Jeromie.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Really just retired from the Air Force after almost 25 years. Pilot is, you could say, my specialty. But throughout probably the last 10 years, I've done a lot of staff work, a lot of working with teams, a lot of managing projects, working on different high-level organizations and that type of stuff. So I've been blessed to see systems, see processes, and that type of stuff, which kind of translates very well into real estate and multifamily. Once you get to a certain point with the assets, you quickly realize that there's only so much time in a day, and if you don't systematize operations and systematize different tasks, you just quickly become overwhelmed. So that's been very helpful. I had a commander at one time say, delegate everything that doesn't require your signature. And so that's what we're trying to do as well. We're exploring virtual assistants this year is one of our 2022 tasks, because we are starting to get to the point where there's certain things where we don't have enough time. But from leaving the military, I was very fortunate to get hired to fly as a professional or commercial pilot with UPS Airlines. So that is what I'm doing now, with so learning that, being part of a civilian now and flying with a civilian company. But real estate is where our passion is, and I think that's where we feel that the Lord is taking us with the retreat center, and we think that's the vehicle that's going to get us there. So that's it for there.
That's the big one.
No, I love your story and your journey. It's so interesting from the last 20 years, a lot of that uncertainty that you guys have had moving around the country. Going back to when Anne Marie was mentioning the why, she mentioned that why a couple times. What is that why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's our passion to give back. We really feel that we've been put here for a reason, and we want to ensure that we can leave this place, leave Earth, leave our families, leave others better than they were before. And so that's where we really are passionate about, the retreat center and where we can take that. We don't exactly know where that's going to be yet, if that's in Alaska or somewhere, in the States here, the lower 48. But I think that's still on the horizon there. We're building the machine is kind of what I say. We're building the engine behind that with the passive income, the real estate, that will help to fuel and to funnel and to be the cash flow, to be the engine to support the retreat center.
That why always proves to be the most important part of the business plan, because without that, everything else seems to crumble apart. So
Yeah.
I'm impressed that you guys have it so solidified. I'm also impressed that you've only been in the industry for 3 years. We had a brief discussion about a month ago, and I thought that you were career experts, seasoned veterans. So to hear that it's only been about 3 years is really impressive. I want to jump over to that 12 and 5 units that you said you started to learn to asset manage with. How did that experience go?
Yeah, it's been good, and there's been tough things too. I think overall we've been really blessed through COVID. We maintained occupancy. In the summers we had a couple turns like you normally would, but they got filled immediately. Thankfully, we're pretty I guess the word isn't conservative, a little bit fussy about where we purchase. And so we went into a higher, median income area with good schools, 8 to 9 out of 10. One of our 12 units in a village that's pretty up and coming. You can walk to anywhere from it. A high school across the street is 9 out of 10. So that's really helped how those properties have performed. The tougher parts were, working through some things with property management. It was our first time working with property management, and we knew that would be something that we would want to wrestle a little bit with because we didn't have a lot of experience. So that was good. So we were happy to take on a few things that were not going, perfectly well. For the most part, we have a wonderful company day to day. They do great with the regular maintenance and keeping up with things. It was the turns that we struggled a little bit with. They were slow on the turns, but we got the units, the 12 unit right when COVID was kicking off, and the 5 unit, not that far after. So there was situations with labor problems. They had a shortage of maintenance. They were using their maintenance person to also do the turns. They didn't have someone specifically for the turns. So, you have somebody very stretched going back and forth to all the units. So, we've had our, I guess, come to Jesus talks with them and really worked through a lot. We actually interviewed 4 other property management companies that could not really do any better from, we really kind of told them our business plan, and they weren't really able to, do a whole lot better than that. And some of them didn't even have systems in place. They were just so mom and pop. So this is actually one of the better ones of the area. So now they know our business plan. And I think learning from that, we weren't as upfront in the beginning with our business plan as we could have been. And that's something that we've learned through that, getting those expectations on the table, ahead of time with property management, so they know what to expect from you, and, and vice versa, right? Because at the end of the day, we had told them some of our expectations, but we didn't know what they were fully expecting from us. And so there was a little bit of miscommunication in the beginning, kind of like any relationship, right? There was a little jockeying around and back and forth. Well, we didn't know you guys were going to do it like this. Well, we didn't realize that. And then once we sorted that all out, it was fine.
Come to Jesus moments. I love that. I love that.
Well, and
getting back
for
to
me,
that, I appreciate your patience on that deal selection. You did your homework before you bought that 5 unit and the 12 unit, get to the closing table, and then you realize, wow, the operations.
Right.
Now we bought these properties, but let's operate now. And you've dealt with the trials and tribulations with a property manager, have to massage that out, so you're on track, so you can move on to your next projects. What are you guys currently working on now?
So one thing we're exploring is a pilot crash pad model up in Anchorage, which is where I'm based out of. And it's common in the pilot community. Essentially, a lot of people could be domiciled or stationed or based out of a certain location, but they don't live there. So let's say, for example, I'm based out of Anchorage, but I currently don't live there. Well, all of my flights for the company start and end out of Anchorage. And so I'm required to get up there to go to work. And so the challenge with being in Anchorage is I can't just get, it's just not a 2-hour flight to get over there and start work. So typically what the pilots are having to do is they have to come in a day or two prior so that they can get their sleep cycle, get their rest cycle. And having a place to call home is what a lot of them like to do, because it's typically a lot easier than, trying to coordinate where you're going to get to a hotel and that type of stuff. So one of the things we did is we bought a townhouse up there. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhouse. And we put bunk beds in each bedroom, 2 bunk beds. So we were able to put 4 pilots into each room. Typically a pilot, for their flying schedule, they may stay there 3, 4, maybe 5 times a month. But what we do is we rent per bed per month. And then we've got it set up to where they've got a personal entry code to get in the door. So no matter day or night, what time they arrive, they can Uber over to this location, which it's about a 10-minute Uber ride for them. And then they have, the nice thing about it is they've got their own bed, they can keep uniforms and all that type of stuff there. Obviously they have use of the bathroom, the laundry, the kitchen, the living room, all those types of things. And we've been very fortunate. When we were ready to go with the first townhouse, we advertised it just on a couple pilot sites. We had it filled up in less than 2 weeks. It's full, and now we're working on trying to get another one closed here in the next couple days, and we have almost that one completely full as well, and that one will probably have 18 beds in it.
A pilot crash pad operated by a pilot who knows the need specifically.
Yeah.
This sounds like it has massive potential.
It
Is
does, in term. This is a cash flow play. This isn't really an equity. You can't force appreciate a house. And so, I can go to the bank and show them how much cash flow we're bringing in, and they're going to be like, well, that's great, but I'm not going to be able to raise the price of the actual, location. So we're trying to come up with there's the multifamily model where we can force appreciate the asset. This, we're really not going to be able to force appreciate, but cash flow wise, all expenses and the mortgage, we're going to be north of 50% on the cash flow for cash on cash. So,
how much of a need is there around the country for this type of a housing situation?
that's hard to really know because Anchorage is a unique location because when folks fly back into Anchorage from their trip, a lot of times it's very tough for them to get on a flight that day and get back home wherever they need to go. You take a place like Atlanta, which is where Delta is based out of, or Chicago or Dallas. There's enough flights leaving out of those large airports way into the evening that if you're based out of one of those airports, you can probably get home if you live in, let's say you're flying out of Dallas and you live in Little Rock. There's probably a Southwest flight that leaves at 10 p.m. that will get you back home. And so you don't really need to have a crash pad there, maybe in Dallas or in Atlanta or something like that, because there's enough flights and it's a quick enough flight that you can probably get home. And maybe your trip for the next trip doesn't start until noon, and so you'll get on a flight at 6 a.m. out of your location, get into Atlanta by 9, and then you're ready to go for your trip. So there's a need for crash pads, but it's probably not as and obviously those cities are very big, so there's lots of opportunities. So I do think Anchorage is a bit unique. Another place where we see it's kind of unique is out in California, just because stuff is so expensive out there. So it's tough to have a rental. It's tough to have a hotels. You're really competing against the hotels. If you can keep your rate low enough that 3 or 4 nights is cheaper than a hotel, then that's your competition. And the beauty of Anchorage is in the summertime, even a mid-level motel will cost you $300 a night. And that's what we charge for a bed for a month. So, folks might say, hey, I can stay in a hotel through the winter, but come summertime, they could be out of luck because there's so much, tourism and that type of stuff up there that the hotels fill up and now they don't have a place to stay.
Well, also there's pilots that are on reserve duty. And so I had one pilot texting me that had, through Messenger, that saw a post. We'd only put one post out about the crash pad, but it was kind of a delayed, inquiry about it. And I told him it's going to fill up real quickly. And then he's like, okay, kind of hemmed and hawed, and it did fill up. And then he reached out a couple of weeks later and he's like, oh my, I'm on an 8-day reserve duty here in Anchorage where I have to sit in a hotel room for 8 days. I really need to get into your crash pad. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, it's full. But, we've got him on a waiting list for the second crash pad. But there's an example of, that's only one of his trips for the month. And he has 7 or 8 nights in a hotel room there.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
Have you guys measured if you're able to scale a little bit more in Anchorage, more crash pads? What's the demand?
I think there is demand because both, at least both UPS and FedEx are expanding those markets. FedEx closed down their Hong Kong base and they've expanded both Anchorage and their LA base. So you've got more pilots coming to Anchorage from FedEx. You've got more pilots coming to Anchorage from UPS. We've got more airplanes that we're purchasing, which requires more crews to be based out of there. So, we probably get every day or two, we're getting 1 or 2 inquiries into a crash pad. So I would say we will get this one under our belt, and then probably the next one. Obviously, we're going to start to systemize it, get probably a VA involved to help out with the inquiries and that type of stuff. It's also driven off of location. We're pretty particular as to the location. People want to be safe. They want to have food that's close by because most folks don't have a car. So they're going to either want to be able to walk somewhere close to either get some food or that type of stuff. So, there's certain places that lend themselves to a crash pad and certain places that don't. In the middle of a neighborhood, out in the middle of nowhere, it's going to be very tough for somebody to get, food and that type of stuff to where they're living, especially if they're there for 8 days. So that's part of the challenge. And Anchorage, like any other market, is very hot right now. I mean, there's stuff that comes on the market and within 1 or 2 days is has already got an offer on it.
Have you checked to see if the name Crash Pad is trademarked?
We have not looked at that. No.
We've got our LLC name. Well,
I like the name. I just see so much potential with that name. Yeah. I've heard of developers building, I guess you could say, crash pads for truck drivers, where they need a place to stay on the interstate.
Yep.
And it seems like a very profitable business, but my concern is autonomous trucks in the future. How far away is that, where you might not have a need for it? I don't see that happening with planes in the near future. So I think there is still that huge need.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah, it's going to be a while before people are comfortable. I do think the cargo industry, cargo planes will be, if they do go autonomous, will probably be the first ones. I think it's going to be a long time before people will feel comfortable sitting in the back of an airplane with no human being sitting in the front of the airplane. So I think we're a ways off. Regulation is always, very, very slow to develop, and obviously you would have to get regulation across the world to be able to support, especially our operations, which are worldwide. So.
I love this idea of the crash pads. I think there's so much potential. Obviously, we're still a little uncertain on what that overall demand is in Anchorage, realizing the challenge when you go to the bank and you guys are cash flowing super well, but they want to value that one property based on comparables. They're not going to give you a loan based on cash flowing. They're going to give you a loan based on what other properties are selling for in the neighborhood. I'm wondering if you guys have thought about a business plan based on scaling up a little bit, because there is that need, making that business plan, taking that to a commercial lender, and you have 3 or 4 properties, all crash pads, cash flowing very, very well, where they're going to underwrite you based on cash flow, based on net operating income. Have you thought about that? Have you talked to a bank or developed a business plan in that sense?
Bill, we really haven't. I think just because we're still, in the in the infancy of the, just seeing that it worked. That's as Anne Marie and I've mentioned before. We like to get our hands dirty first and make sure something is works. Ideas are great, but everybody's always looking, well, do you have any experience doing that? But I think it's a very logical next step. Yes. Is we have some investors that are definitely backing us and helping us. But you're exactly right. You get 3 or 4 of these properties all under one umbrella, and now you can take that to the bank and say, look at what our portfolio is doing. Look at the income that is coming off of this. Now can we, sell that? So that's a great idea, and we're writing it down. But we have not thought that far out yet. But I've heard that before, and I've seen it, on portfolios, 8, 10, 15 homes that are for sale. That now the lender can use that valuation for the properties and that type of stuff. So
yeah, again, I think there's massive potential there. You both seem to be analytical.
Yeah.
Is that yeah?
I'm probably sometimes a little more, let's jump in and do it, but I think we're a good match that way. I think another investor also pointed out to us, we could we once we're up living in Anchorage, it would be easier, but possibly, if we were buying distressed assets and trying to then do some appreciation to them so that we don't just have the cash flow, we also have we're putting value and equity into the home. So we'll see when we're up there how much work that would be to take that on, that kind of model.
Well, that's great. And I know that you guys have a big family. As you get into talking about distressed properties, have your kids gotten involved in any of your assets? Are they doing some work, learning the business?
Yeah, so we have a little bit here and there on our units here, locally. They've done a little bit on some of the turns. We had them paint on a turn only because we had a little bit of time at that season that it was turning, and they were wanting these double suspension mountain bikes. And so we said, okay, if, 5 of them want a double suspension mountain bike, that's a lot right now. It's several thousand
Double
dollars.
suspension. That sounds
It's
expensive.
very expensive. So we're like, okay, we'll pay close to half. And you're going to have to do a little work, and earn a little bit of money because we pay our kids. So if they come to the property and so also like yard work, like cleaning up leaves in the parking lot, we'll do that with our 11-year-old and our 9-year-old. And the boys get to town and they're great. And the girls do too. So I just sparingly, we haven't done a ton, but more in the summer, if there's a cleanup project or something, when we first get a property, we would take a couple sheds down. We did it ourselves. So some unique things that we've had them involved in. And, laundry, coins, rolling coins, taking coins out of the machines, wiping the laundry machines down. They do that as well.
Yeah.
Are they getting the real estate bug, or is it too early to tell?
I think our 17-year-old is a little bit. He's wired for mechanical engineering and robotics. That's his super passion. Like just to sit there and design things and CAD things and 3D print them. There's 3D printers all through his bedroom. So he's really into that, but he's inquired more recently. He came up and set up our first crash pad with us. He built all the bunk beds, and, he was asking, how much are we making? How's this working? So definitely getting more of an interest as he's starting to get a little bit older, closer to 18.
No, that's awesome. That ties right together. He'll be able to provide great value for that, and maybe future investments. I know you guys were talking about multifamily. You got involved in some LP deals in some southwestern states. What's your plan getting into more multifamily?
Yeah, we would definitely want to continue that, and we want to kind of grow our wings, as you might say, with GPs. And so that's another one of our goals for 2022 is to be GPs on a deal. We've actually got one in the works right now. Can't go into too much details because it's out right now with the seller. But I think that would be our next is a JV with a bigger deal, which this is a 48 unit. And then if we can get success with that, then, potentially look to, do a syndication, but we've wanted to definitely do the building block approach, make sure that we can understand processes, understand what's going on so that we can have the trust and confidence of those that would be, either joining us in the deal or investing with us in a syndication, that they know that we've got their best interest at heart. Another opportunity for passive investors is the tenants that we have at the crash pads, because I have opportunities to talk about real estate investing, and they all are their interest is piqued. So that's a good group of folks to be able to add value and give education to, and then potentially have them as investors in some sort of a limited partnership.
And it's a win-win if it's a good deal. Are you looking specifically where you're located now, or given your experience moving around the country, are you open to different markets?
No, we're definitely open to different markets. It's really about relationships. If there's, partners that believe in us, we believe in them, we've got strengths that, they don't have. They have strengths that we don't have. We really feel more comfortable at this point with someone boots on the ground. So I think that's key, is like finding someone in the partnership that can kind of have, at least somewhat of a drivable proximity to the property. So yeah, we definitely have two other markets other than Anchorage that we're starting to look at a little bit more seriously.
What markets?
So we're looking at Louisville, Kentucky a little bit. We kind of went back and forth on that one. But now there's more and more pilot connections, as Jeremy said, that we're making there. Some connections in the mastermind MIH, and he touches base there because that's the world port hub for UPS. So there's kind of a lot of strong connections for us around that area. Also, we've made some connections with partners in Nebraska. So the Omaha area, Bellevue area, taking a little bit of a look at that area as well. But we're still open to other places as well.
Yeah, we just feel, there's, obviously there's a lot of competition in Texas and Florida and North Carolina, South Carolina. And so it's meeting those key players that could be on the ground there, that we could add value, through our connections. A conversation I have with lots of captains is their tax problem, because they do make a significant amount of income and they have no way to offset it, or they don't understand the power of real estate and the ability to, with the real estate professional status, if they were able to achieve that, that could be a big help to reducing or lowering their taxes. So it's educating folks on that, and then bringing them on board to potentially, having them join us in a deal or something like that, or at least being able to raise capital for a deal in a market that makes sense, where we feel a connection to either other GPs or something comes our way.
That's a fantastic resource. All those other pilots or potential LPs, educate them properly, and you got a win-win.
Yeah, and obviously
That's fantastic.
we're still looking at making sure it's in an area with low crime, some growth, strong job market, low unemployment, all those things, strong schools. We're still looking for that criteria within those areas.
With the criteria, I like how you knew the school rankings on your previous multifamily purchases. I think school ranking is often overlooked by other factors because it doesn't hit that bottom line, but it can be so important for your tenant quality. When I first started investing with Bill in the Capital District, I did a little report on school ranking versus taxes. So we're looking for the highest possible school ranking with the lowest possible taxes in the whole Capital District. And the results were a little surprising. So I encourage anyone out there to try and find something like that.
No, that's a great
Yes.
Research project, because like you say, I don't know. Did you find that the higher the taxes, the better the schools, or was it inverse, or what was your conclusion?
I think the biggest takeaway was the winners were the small villages on the outskirts of towns. So they had better taxes because they weren't part of that town, but they were part of their school district.
Yes.
And so there's 3 or 4 of those in this couple hour radius. So if you can find that and lock in on those, there's good potential there.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And we see that too, in the village we are, the taxes are higher, which is a burden on the asset, but we have had no issues getting units filled and being able to bump the rents, because that's where people want to be. And so they're willing to pay an extra 100, 150 a month because of the convenience, and knowing, we've got a lot of our tenants in our 12 unit are single gals, so they feel safety in the village, and some of them don't even have cars and they walk to work, at all hours of the day and night. And so part of it is that safety factor. One of the things we did when we took over the property is we changed all the lighting, because the lighting was very poor. And that was one of the main concerns when we feedback that we got from the tenants when we took over the property is it's too dark, and especially the back parking lot was very dark. Um, so it's lit up like a Christmas tree now. So
to the point where a neighbor complained about how bright the LED lighting was.
Yeah, you can't win them all, but yeah, location, location, location. That's always going to be top in real estate investing, or geez, your personal residence. At the same time, you're doing that lighting because you have to meet the needs of your customers.
exactly.
I'd like to shift to something I have to point out. You guys were on the or are on the top 13 for Joe Fairless, the top 13 real estate investor story this year. Tell us about that.
Well, I shared a little bit at the beginning when we first started today about my mindset shift. And so we started out with that. I think they were interested in, the whole adventure we're on, going to Alaska, but also, when I chatted with their marketing crew, we kind of had a real candid conversation about how, spouses can drift in different directions. You can have one spouse or partner that, is on fire for real estate and entrepreneurship and investing, and the other is, nervous about it or doesn't want to take the time or just ignorant like myself. And I really think that for sure can eventually put a division and isolation in a relationship. And so I think we were teetering on that. We weren't having any major problems, but it could have become one because, for 10 years of our marriage, Jeremy is, reading this material, excited about it, talking to me about it. And I really, felt more overwhelmed with the moving every 1 to 2 to 3 years, right? And having 6 children, I felt like, my life is crazy. I can't think of taking on another project. But I didn't understand the investing mentality, that I wouldn't be a landlord and, getting toilet phone calls and things like that. Plus, I really didn't understand the money flow. And I really also had a limited mindset on making more money. I thought, well, I'm comfortable, right? We have a good home. My husband's an officer in the military. Our kids are provided for. I don't really want any more. And I know that might sound, funny, but I seriously just was happy and content with what we had. So the thought of working more, getting busier to earn more money, to me was not motivating. But I didn't understand the full picture. And so I think that's something that we were able to exchange in that interview and share, that, once I had that mindset shift, that aha, that revelation moment at that conference, as well, God had been working on my heart. Like, you need to support your husband. You need to learn more about this. I wasn't even going to go to the conference. So when I took that dive, I, all the light bulb kind of went on and the pieces of the puzzle started fitting in. Like, money, like I said earlier, is a tool. And so how can we impact and change people's lives, leave a legacy for our family, and then our whole family? How can we change people? How can we change this world and this community, right? We can let other wealthy people, dictate how things go, and we can complain about all we want. But what are we going to do as individuals, to multiply our talents, multiply our gifts, get out there, and make a difference and change things? And so that was the passion behind that. And then we just also shared, the move to Alaska, Jeremy's retirement from the military for 23 years. And, the resiliency that's built into our family and into our marriage and our kids. Really, we've learned to live with different cultures. We've lived in 9 different states. We've lived overseas in Belgium. I'm from Canada, so I've lived in 3 different countries. And that has built something into us, a tenacity. And also, I think, a tendency to be less critical, maybe, of differences in people and differences in cultures and surroundings. And I think it's given us that drive to, to push forward and do something, because it's not easy to step out right into an unknown and where you're going to go. But ultimately, that brought that vision coming together for us, brought us closer in our marriage. It was able to, ignite Jeremy's passion, because he's an MBA, he has more business background than me. I'm a physical therapist. Well, my passion is chronic pain management and to see people healed and restored. And so how can we combine these things and do something powerful?
Well, I can see why you're on that top 13. That's an absolutely beautiful story. It really is. It really is very impactful. This is the collecting real estate show. So they say you have to have three of something to make a collection. So we've got three questions for you to wrap this up. Number one, what are your 1 to 2 year business goals?
1 to 2 year business goals. Really, we're looking to JV, and as well as do a syndication. And then essentially we need to get our cash flow, to that level where we can start to look at and, explore a retreat center. And I think that needs to be north of about 10K a month in terms of positive cash flow. And so that's what we're really targeting right now is scaling, getting to those bigger units. We've done the 12, we've done the 5, we want to get to where we can, maybe, have a 50 and look at, getting, GPing on a 100+ unit to get to that next level. So I think that is kind of, where we're looking, I think, for the next 1 to 3 years. Get settled in Anchorage is another key thing, and then exploring this crash pad model. Exactly like you were saying, Bill, earlier. I could see us having another, or see us having another, 2 or 3 of these under an umbrella, and then presenting that to a commercial lender and trying to get some sort of assessed value out of that, and then potentially refinancing out of that, and then just and continuing to take that and grow. So thank you for that wisdom, Bill.
No, excellent. Number two, 1 to 2 year personal goals.
All right. Well, I want to continue to grow in my mindset. I'm absolutely convinced. I know it's talked a lot about in real estate, and I think it's amazing to see getting into the real estate world and networking with real estate investors has opened my eyes that, the mindset thing isn't just I took it more from the angle of my walk with God. I'm a new creation. I'm valuable. I'm loved. I'm created for a purpose, right? And so I've done that kind of in my spiritual growth, and to see people already executing it in the business world and see that marry up, to me, is really exciting. So I think both of us are on that journey of continuing to know, our identity, who we are, how we're gifted, and how God wants to use that, in our lives. And so that's the daily thing, the daily grind every day, right? And it's not really a grind, but I mean, you have your quiet moments, you have your times of, we read the word, we have times of prayer, and we have times of where we're declaring and affirming. So that's a skill I'm growing in, and I've been practicing for about a year, is starting to, it might sound funny, but talk more to myself and, look myself in the mirror, like our leader of MIH, Marco, would say, go in the mirror, tell yourself, I'm going to have this deal. I'm going to be successful, whatever it is. Right. And learning that it's not a prideful thing. You have to build yourself up. There's so much negative around us and so much negative input that we hear from media, news, people that, don't have the same mindset. And I think at the end of the day, you've got to be encouraging yourself and really be firm in that foundation, to move forward. So that I'm growing that foundation and continuing just, to work at that daily.
Yeah, and I'll ditto that as well. A lot of motivational speakers that I listen to have passed on, but Jim Rohn and Earl Nightingale and those folks. And it's very similar to what Anne Marie was saying too. It's that positive thought process going through your mind. It's as she mentioned, the research shows that 70% of the stuff entering your mind is negative. And so that's a constant battle every day, is overcoming that and ensuring that you can go to that next level. And so many of us are beat down, from either friends or relatives or whatever, that the inputs we're receiving from them is, you can't get there. And it's overcoming that. And so I think that's I mean, we both come from very blue collar families. So, go get a job, go to school, get a good education. That's been beat into both of our heads.
Work hard.
Work hard, as Robert Kiyosaki would say. That's the families we come from. We're not coming from families of entrepreneurs, and so this is a little bit risky that we see from coming from our parents. Is you know what you're doing? You've got good jobs. You just be okay with that.
Comfortable, yeah.
Your mindset is absolutely fantastic, and I have to just add, the negative stuff that's we're fed every day. It's funny, we turn on the TV at 6 o'clock at night. We're not getting the news. We're getting the bad news.
Yeah.
We can find so much good news throughout the day. It's not hard to find. We all have great lives in the greatest country in the world, and don't look at the bad news. It's not healthy for us. How can we and the listeners assist you, and how do we contact you?
So I'm on the social media platforms. Jeremy is too, on LinkedIn. That's a great place. And Instagram, Facebook. We also have a website, Spero Equity Management. It's SPERO, and then equity, and then management. So Spero .com. Spero stands for I hope in Latin. So, we hope to bring hope to others and impact their lives.
Yeah, and so we're looking to continue to connect, to grow our connections, and then to partner. Looking for potential, either GPs or JV partners that we can work with in the future to continue to help grow the vision we have for Spero. The retreat center and those type of things. And really it's to better communities as well. We see that through even our units here is, we want to improve the lives of the tenant base that we come in contact with. They're not only helping us, but we want to help them. And so, part of this is is how can we give back? How can, the more impact that we can have, and you can have it through your tenants. You can also have it through the cash flow that comes off the business to pursue your why. And so we kind of see it twofold: is we want to make the communities better, but then we also want to pursue our why as well. So connecting to like-minded individuals is our desire.
Love your journey. Really appreciate you having on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bill and Stephen. This
has
been a joy.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
we're really honored that you guys would take the time to interview us and help us to get our why out there, and to get our passion out there, and to help others, along this path as well. So.
Excellent.